Walker here, editor-in-chief of Psychology's magazine, and I am delighted to be joined by the amazing Edwina Dunn, who is founder of the Female Lead, which is an amazing platform for over 3 million women who it's an inspirational platform, isn't it, that is going to lead us forward. Edwina, I'm so pleased to see you today. We've just been chatting for about 10 minutes before this interview, and I'm beyond excited about what you told me. It's really amazing. So Edwina, I know that you come from a very illustrious background of big data. I think you're called the kind of one of the number one experts in big data globally. And then you created something called the Female Lead. So tell me a little bit about what is the Female Lead and what inspired you to create it.
Susie, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, and I love what you do. I really love what you do, and I wanted to be here because, you know, when you write, when you talk about things, I feel you give such a real and balanced perspective, which, you know, is what we're trying to do at the Female Lead. So, you know, the idea is incredibly simple. You know, all we are doing is showcasing what women have been doing for years. Their stories have just not been told in the way that so many others are, so many male stories. You know, when I was at school, you learnt about dead women, you know, Florence Nightingale, Ada Lovelace, you know, and then a whole heap of men. And so our mission at the Female Lead is to share inspiring stories of very diverse women expressing success in many ways. So we talk about fulfillment. It's not all about power and money. It is about people's passions and beliefs and how they bring them to reality. And we talk to them about the path that they took. Why? Because we want to help others, girls, women, to understand that path and to understand that, you know, success doesn't come overnight. You know, you don't go, oh, I'm a celebrity, it happened. You probably have many dark moments, many awful dead ends, and then suddenly it's a reality. So we share those stories, books that we send to schools and universities, films, teaching materials, and we just have this fab time where we interview all these amazing women, and it's a joy. And I suppose what I'm bringing to it, which you've alluded to, is my background in data and science and evidence, because, you know, I want men to understand what it's like to be a girl or a woman today. No anger, no, you know, beating of chest, but simply this is what it's like, and here's the evidence. And can you please work with us to ensure that it's an equal platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much about what you just said that I want to pick up on, but, you know, just to say that your book, The Female Lead, Women Who Shape the World, it's been donated to 18,000 schools in the UK and US. So this idea of, so for many of us, just as you said, to start to lead, be it in our families, be it in our community, or be it in business, it's finding other women to help us to do that and to inspire us and show us how it's done. And it feels like, and again, this is a personal perspective, but it feels like very much that we've been given a kind of a model of what that looks like, and it hasn't worked because it's a male model of, you know, somebody was at home looking after the children and everything else for the men. But for us, when we're doing it all, it can feel exhausting and we burn out. So real women giving their real inspirational stories about how they are leading and making it work is just incredible. What are some of your favorite stories that you could share with us today? I know that's really difficult, but inspire us now with some ideas of, you know, who's doing it well or how they've managed it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are so many great stories. And I think the thing that I love is making sure we communicate that this is not a problem in women, about women. You know, we're not trying to fix women. Women are great, absolutely great. You're right. It's kind of how they find their place in the society that we live, in the processes that we all experience. So, you know, finding out how others have navigated that becomes quite enlightening, which is the word, you know, I really love to use. So who do I love? I just spoke with Maggie Adrin Pocock, space scientist, you know, and I just had a wonderful chat with her. She's like a ball of energy. She's almost like a comet that whizzes through space, and she's passionate about girls and education and STEM. She speaks probably the fastest I've ever heard a woman speak, probably because that's how her mind works. But she's an inspiration, and you know, she came from a world where she never even imagined she was going to be a space scientist. She made her own telescope, you know, at a young age, and thought, wow, you know, as you do, yeah, exactly. But she's extraordinary. I love, you know, there are so many. There's Brenda Berkman, who was the firefighter who, you know, went to the Twin Towers when the first call was made on the firefighters of New York. And she became a lawyer in order to fight for the rights, for equal rights for women to be firefighters. I mean, she was, what's the word, sabotaged by her colleagues because they thought having a woman alongside them kind of denigrated their, you know, image and their aura. And she lived through all of that. She's semi-retired now, but she's still an amazing voice, an amazing force. And then you have people like Christiane Amanpour, who, you know, is doing her own thing and talking about women and interviewing. She's amazing. Ava
So
DuVernay.
with all of the women that you're interviewing, and if you were going to, we're talking to our psychology's audience here, and again, we've talked all the time, psychology is, you know, your life, your way, success on your terms, you know, finding success that aligns with you. And it doesn't necessarily mean just about work. We're talking about life success, where you're living your values, you're living a life that literally makes your heart leap. Is there any sort of thing that joins all of these women, these tips or things that you hear over and over again, that you can share with us?
Yes, there are some themes through all of these women and all of the conversations we have with them. One is about, you know, follow your passions, be mindful of your career and journey, but follow your passions, believe in yourself, surround yourself with people who believe in you. You know, if people around you are saying you can't and you shouldn't, you need to change the friends and the people around you, because you can. If you want to, you can. So that's really important. Dare to be different. We are programmed to fit in, to be small, to comply. Daring to be different. You know, we have the most brilliant ballerina, Michaela de Prince. Her mother said, "You're a poppy in a field of daffodils," which I just thought was absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
You know, so that one is really important. Ask for help. You know, this is what women are really good at, asking for help. Men don't, because, you know, they don't like to get lost. You know the famous one, you've never asked. My husband is a bit like that, I have to say. But asking for help is really, really important. And being curious, you know, asking why, how do I do this? So these are some of the themes that come through again and again and again, and they're not rocket science. They're just very simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that kind of, in terms of asking for help, there's that kind of vulnerability, being comfortable with our own vulnerability, and being almost, for me, I know that when I'm more humble, like being in the I don't know space, and then taking the steps to find out and reaching out for help. And I find in my network, the more I ask, especially women,
yes,
will help me. They will support me and help me to find the next step. Have you got any advice, Edwina, around, you know, those dark times when it's not going to plan? And I know many of us have had a really dark year. It's been a difficult year for many, many people. And especially, I think, for many women, because we've been schooling and we've been running our businesses and we've been doing all of these things as well. What you're talking to all of the people that you're interviewing around resilience. Are there any tips or any advice that if you could beam it out to us all and sort of inject us all with that, what advice would you give us?
Well, I've learned a lot through lockdown because I've been running lives with some of these amazing coaches who are, you know, really trained psychologists and professors of, and so I have learned things. And yes, one of the questions has been, you know, how do we build resilience? I am told it is mostly mindset. You can look at everything from it's awful, it's bad, it's getting worse, I'm having an awful time. Or you can say, I'm going to try and build from this really difficult moment, and my mindset, which is really, really hard to change, is going to be one of, you know, we're in it together. It's bad for everyone. How can we make the most of a fresh start? How can we prepare for the next steps that we're going to take moving forward? And I know that's really easy to say, but it's really about practicing and writing down and writing plans. And actually, we all tend to sort of go over the same thing many times in our head. But if we write down our plan, what we feel good about, what we feel bad about, what the opportunities are, this is an amazing way of coaching ourselves. And actually things like imposter syndrome, which we all feel from time to time, right?
My favorite, when we put it on the magazine, Imposter Syndrome, we sell out. It's the one everyone understands if you're a woman. Yeah,
because it's really built into us. Imposter syndrome, I am told by people who better trained than me in all of this, is one of the best ways of creating inspiration and ambition within people. If you feel less, you work harder, you try harder, you invest more. And actually, it can be one of the best spurs to growth, to change. And actually, we should embrace it, not as a weakness, but as a really honest moment of trying harder, being better. And I think we should be really proud of it and not worried about it.
Well, I think it's an invitation, isn't it? I mean, there's two things. I think when I feel imposter syndrome and envy, there's two things. And the first thing is recognizing it. Oh, I'm feeling really not very confident right now. Oh, I'm feeling envious of that person. It's like, oh, it's an invitation to go, okay, what is it what am I being asked to step up to? And rather than making it about somebody else, just make it about an invitation to raise my game, basically. That's how I like to see it.
Yes, and I think, you know, when we're feeling bad, it's so easy to project that badness onto someone else and say that's how they're making me feel. But that's what I think we have to resist. It's so much easier to say than to do. All of this.
Yeah. What about for you? I mean, personally, when you've had some dark times, how do you get through it? You know, I sort of often have it under the duvet day and just allow myself just to rest and breathe and just do nothing, to actually watch Netflix in bed, sort of thing. What do you do?
I do think we need more boredom in our lives, more quietness in our lives, because I do think some of the best creative moments come out from silence. I gaze into space sometimes and think, and you know, you have to sort of let things wash over you a bit. My most cathartic treatment, the one that works best for me, I discovered with my grown-up daughter, actually, and I hope you'll forgive me using this language, but it is the truth of what we call it. And we write our shit list. And you know, honest to God, we laugh so much. We end up crying with fun and a release that comes from, these are all the bad things that happened this year. And we sort of celebrate, no, this was even worse. This was really bad. This was dark. And at the end of it, we're just roaring with laughter because, you know, once you put it down, you kind of rid yourself of those horrible spectres and those things that weigh down on you when you're not feeling really well. So you kind of go, yeah, I've got it. I've written it. I remember. I will always remember, but they're gone.
And what I love about that is you're acknowledging with humour. Okay, it's not, you know, I think sometimes the kind of positive thinking movement can be not about acknowledging, you know, actually this is really, use your language shit, and you write it all down. It's like, okay, and then, okay, out your system, let's move on. What did you say earlier? Something about when you're kind of starting from where you're at, you know, things can be really dark, but rather than trying to, you know, you're building from this place, you know, not so great. And I love that idea because it's okay. It's not about wishing it was different. It's just acknowledging how it really is right now. And then
yeah, and I think it's all right to say, you know what, I'm in a bad place, I'm in a dark place, things have gone wrong. You know, the optimistic view, and I am a perennial optimist, is, well, it's really bad, so it's got to get better, right? And so, you know, there's that wonderful phrase that I heard on a female lead podcast, and it is that this too will pass. You've heard of this, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
This too will pass seems to be so important for now, because, you know, in our darkest moments, they will pass. And even in our happiest moments, they don't last forever, even though we all want them. I mean, we all want Christmas to last forever, don't we? But it won't.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the tarot cards. And there's a card which is the Wheel of Fortune. And it's just the idea that, I mean, I love it sometimes when I'm on my uppers, because I think, oh, it's going to get better. But then sometimes when it's really great, I think, oh dear. But it's just a sense of just this circle, you know, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great. And just to go with the flow, don't resist it, just keep going with it, I think. Is it?
Well, you can't have great days if you don't have bad days. It's really that simple. And riding that wave, that up and down, I think is resilience. It's life. And it's like, you know, even in a week, I have a bad day. Almost every week, I have a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, I mean, if I have 4 good days, I'm thinking, whoa, that's great.
Yeah. So let's say we're riding the wave of quite a difficult and challenging 2020. Tell me about, last question, 2021, the vision for the female lead. I know you've got really exciting things that we can't talk about coming up. You know, what should we be looking for at the female lead in 2021? Where are you taking us?
Well, I am truly excited. We have so much planned for 2021. Obviously, lots of social media, lots of great stories still. But I'm now going to bring all my career, all my work, all my data science towards the research of women to understand what we really need to know about what it's like for many, many women day-to-day working life. What's the good bits? What are the bad bits? What are the myths? What are the realities? By really understanding that and using lots of data, so we're going to have something on the website that everybody can get involved with, and we're going to start collecting data, and from that we are going to build a weight of evidence that's going to help us navigate then with content, with stories, hopefully with some better processes and policies, but really start with the voice of the people, the realities of people, and actually share that out fairly but universally to say, things have been built, perhaps with good intentions, but probably not correctly. And so let's go back to the truths and then reshape. And in the words of all the famous politicians now, build back better, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. And I mean, what I love what you're saying is it's almost we were kind of told how perhaps what we think and what we need and what we feel by a system that really wasn't about women. So now with your amazing, you're leading with your background, with your data, you know how to do that. So I love that you're bringing these two worlds together and leading us forward of actually this is what women really want and need, and here we go, and let's start building systems to support the real woman versus this fantasy of what has been projected upon us. I love it. Oh my God, watch out world 2021. Edwina, thank you so much for your time today. I am coming away incredibly inspired and hopeful for 2021. Keep on doing the amazing work you're doing at the Female Lead. It's inspirational. Everyone, please head over to the Female Lead and see what Edwina is doing. And thank you personally for standing up and leading us and being that kind of voice of reason and inspiration in this rather crazy world that we're living in right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you for creating a brilliant platform yourself.
Yeah, I love your psychologies. Lots of love. Speak to you